For many of us, games are vital. That's what drives us to make games and continue building, creating, innovating, and exploring. We know just how important it is. We see it as our responsibility to help people on all corners of the globe experience play.
While EA started off this console generation with quite a few promising games in the pipeline, in retrospect nothing worked out as planned, at least for fans who had high hopes for acclaimed IPs like Mass Effect or Star Wars Battlefront. In an almost deliberate fashion, EA obliterated one prestigious franchise after the next, to the point where every single series or developer admired by the global gaming community has been eliminated. EA shut down talented studios, ditched beloved IPs in an uncaring manner, and turned into the gaming industry's arch-villain by recklessly pursuing the most consumer-hostile business models they could possibly imagine. Never before has a video game company done so much harm to its own games and studios than EA. The pace in which EA is destroying its own legacy is unprecedented and left behind a depressing graveyard of unused potential. Looking back at last year, EA's self-destructive behavior seemingly reached its climax. The casualty report is absolutely staggering. Mass Effect, one of gaming's most acclaimed and influential franchises, and in many ways BioWare's magnum opus, was twisted into a pathetic, grotesque version of itself. What once stood for superb storytelling and the hallmark of the RPG genre became a worldwide laughingstock.
Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything.
The by now iconic memes regarding Andromeda's numerous technical issues were a clear result of an overwhelmed development team who was handed a task way above their pay grade, and an uncaring company breathing down their neck. As if that wasn't bad enough, Visceral Games, the studio behind Dead Space, one of the best survival horror series ever created, was shut down, adding yet another name to the giant list of killed developers. Alongside Visceral, Amy Hennig's Uncharted-inspired Star Wars game vanished without ever getting a real chance to convince us in the first place. A couple of weeks later, Need for Speed Payback's grind-based lootbox system functioned as the first bad omen of the massive debacle that was about to follow. In the months leading up to Battlefront 2's release, EA boasted about the fact that they listened to fan feedback and complaints, reassuring us that Battlefront 2 will make up for the sloppy mistakes of its predecessor.
So today we're going to bring you 30 minutes of Star Wars Battlefront 2. And what we hope you'll see is that we've addressed all of the feedback and gone even further.
Well, we all know what tends to happen when EA promises something and pretends to care about consumers. As always, it turns out to be a big fucking lie. What should have been an atonement for the first Battlefront's shortcomings instead ended up being an insulting slap in the face. Star Wars Battlefront's game mechanics were broken to the core due to EA's aggressive implementation of microtransactions. The game has since become one of the greatest video game controversies of all time, even catching the attention of mainstream media and politicians. 2017 was a pivotal year for EA. Last year concluded a transformation which had been long in the making. Each and every admired franchise lies buried 10 feet beneath the ground. Story-driven single-player games are now an extinct species in EA's catalog, and the hopes for consumer-friendly multiplayer experiences have been crushed once and for all. EA left behind quite a mess. Which leads me to A Way Out, a highly unusual game revolving around the journey of Leo and Vincent, two convicted prisoners on the run from authorities. A Way Out primarily caught people's attention because of the, let's say, passionate director behind the project.
Fuck the Oscars, you know? Fuck the Oscars! Fuck you! I'll tell you! This is bullshit!
Calling Joseph Fares a passionate guy might be the understatement of the century. But what really sets A Way Out apart from the vast majority of games is its commitment to deliver an experience entirely on the basis of co-op split screen, a game mode close to extinction in the modern gaming world. You can't play A Way Out without the help of another player, either online or preferably a person next to you on the couch. So Hazelight's upcoming co-op adventure is special in two ways. For one thing, A Way Out tries to reintroduce us to classic couch co-op. Even more, it wants to go further by telling the story of two protagonists simultaneously, and for another thing, despite being part of EA's staple, the game's exceptional premise frees the game from any form of microtransactions. Regardless if A Way Out turns out to be a failed experiment or a great hit, no one can deny that the entire idea behind the game is interesting, fresh, and a clear deviation from current industry standards. Every single EA game we know of scheduled to be released after A Way Out falls into the same category. It seems from here on out, every EA game will be a multiplayer-focused and lootbox-infested cash grab. It's not even that Anthem, Battlefield 5 and the upcoming Star Wars projects look like awful games, but they are also not particularly interesting by any stretch of the imagination. EA games are either annual releases like FIFA and Battlefield, featuring barely any noteworthy innovation and change, or new IPs like Anthem, whose potential is immediately scrutinized by squeezing the game into the most convenient trend, in this case shared open-world shooters designed with microtransactions and endless repetition in mind. I even would go as far to say that EA's games portfolio features the least amount of intrigue, innovation, change and risk out of all the major publishers. Ubisoft is putting more and more focus on games as a service and is responsible for an open world blueprint that was great during its initial implementation in the first Far Cry and Assassin's Creed games, but is now widely regarded as stale, repetitive and simply used up. Ubisoft's well-established open world formula, consisting of bandit camps, light crafting elements, some variant of radio towers and tons of collectibles, is dominating the industry and has led to open world maps that look and feel exactly the same, despite the fact that they are part of completely different franchises. This is why many people experience a lack of excitement to pick up the next Assassin's Creed or Far Cry game. Despite having spent hundreds of hours in Far Cry 3 and 4, I have no desire whatsoever to invest time in Far Cry 5, a game that yet again is almost an exact copy of the previous game. My point is, EA is not the only company that's lacking innovation. The only difference is, even Ubisoft releases something exciting and surprising every once in a while. For every shared open world shooter like The Division and Ghost Recon Wildlands, Ubisoft also releases compelling single player experiences like South Park: The Fractured But Whole, turn-based tactical games like Mario + Rabbids Kingdom Battle, or action fighting games like For Honor, which is still a multiplayer title, but the medieval setting is quite refreshing. It's true that Ubisoft's focus shifts more and more towards games as a service. However, in direct comparison to EA, Ubisoft at least manages to maintain some sort of diversity among their games portfolio. Not all of it falls into the category shared world multiplayer. Most of it, but not all of it. EA's offering, on the other hand, is now officially devoid of any variety whatsoever. Single-player games are nowhere to be found, and there's barely any diversity in terms of genre. The only silver lining is EA Originals, a program designed to fund the creative endeavors of small developers. All profits made from EA Originals games go back to the development teams. Believe it or not, but EA Originals actually is a great idea. All the same, the occasional release of indie darlings like Unravel, Faye or A Way Out is not enough to save the car crash that is EA's reputation. I think it's absolutely possible that A Way Out might be the last original and unique EA title for years. Taking EA's past actions into consideration, we have every reason to fear for an EA lineup more repetitive, unoriginal and unsurprising than ever before. One thing I want to clarify is that I don't take pleasure in bashing EA and ranting repeatedly about its evil nature. Quite the opposite, it's exhausting. Hating EA has always been a common custom among gamers. Strangely enough, last console generation I refused to demonize EA, and I think I had solid reasons for that. It's not like EA didn't try to pull off shady stuff in the past. The crucial difference between the Electronic Arts of last console generation and the Electronic Arts of today is that for each scandal or misstep, the old EA also gave us innovative and outstanding new games. The actions and deeds of the Electronic Arts we know today are so incredibly painful and enraging because the EA logo used to stand for masterclass games. Mass Effect and Dragon Age brought RPGs and storytelling to new heights, making BioWare a household name for top-tier video games. Dead Space turned into an instant survival horror classic and scared millions of gamers shitless, and niche titles like Mirror's Edge offered interesting new gameplay ideas. One console generation later, and all famous EA franchises are either dead once and for all or turned into poor imitations of their former glory. It's heartbreaking to witness the slow decay of a legendary studio like BioWare. For the good of the gaming community, one can only hope that EA's anti-consumer behavior will come to a sudden end. Losing the creative energy and positive influence of the Electronic Arts that once was would be a great loss for the entire industry. Keep your FIFAs, Battlefields and shared open world Star Wars games, but please EA, let studios like BioWare do what they are known and admired for. Every once in a while, invest in intriguing new IPs like Dead Space or Mirror's Edge. If you don't, I'm afraid you are headed to a dark future. Thanks a lot for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it immensely. As always, I'd like to know your thoughts and ideas, so share your opinion in the comment section. Till next time.